Thank you. So before giving it to you, Sister Rita, thank you so much for joining. I will speak a few lines about you in the form of a poem and also introduce you to the audience. So let me just do that. Yeah. So Sister Rita, I met her personally. She's from Boston, a very, very light soul and energy, very, very light. And she has been practicing Raj Yoga since 1999. So almost 30 years, more than 30 years. Based in Boston, serves as the center coordinator there, still serving there. And you all will be surprised to know that she's an entrepreneur because she's got the spirit of entrepreneurship in her. That's what she likes to mention. And she has founded a number of companies. To name a few, Learning Circle, which is a management consulting firm. And another one is the Visions of a Better World, which is a Better World Foundation, which is a non-profit organization. And she also serves as a consultant with the MIT Organizational Learning Center. But what Sister Rita says about herself, she loves is learning, constant learning, and she considers herself to be a lifelong learner. And to match with her today's value, she likes to say that she remains light as a feather in all that she does. So this is all her introduction, and finally about the poem. So please bear with me for the next few minutes. So today our special guest, Sister Rita, is joining us from Boston, sharing her wisdom on lightness, which has indeed been forgotten. The wisdom of lightness has been forgotten. She says, let's leave the burden aside, which is indeed very rotten, so that we can start life afresh, like wearing a brand new dress of white cotton. Life should flow easily like the clear water coming from a mountain, which teaches us how to rejoice like a child playing in a fountain. You know, in today's age, see how deeply within us weaknesses have gotten, making us spin and toss like the rings of the planet Saturn. So now let's try to become light by seeing what we can unlearn. I think that's important because we learn a lot of things. Let's try to unlearn and claim from the divine our lost fortune, which we can then indeed earn. So thank you so much, Sister Rita, for joining. And the stage is all yours. Over to you. Thank you.
So Om Shanti and hello to everyone. Brother, that poem was so amazing. You know, I didn't know you were a poet, you know, that you would be a poet and I would know it. You know, but thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else for staying on and, you know, being with us for this continuation of a conversation on this such an important value, lightness. You know, I think listening, you know, over the last hour and coming to know everything that has been done prior to this conversation on lightness, I'm really not sure, you know, what it is that I can add to the conversation, but I'll try to share from my own experience. You know, it was very interesting that when Brother Manoj asked me to speak on this, I really had not spent a lot of time thinking about lightness as a value. And so I really put my heart into doing that. And there were many, many surprises that came up for me, you know, and of course, you know, as asked, you know, I began, and I should say regarding the, just before we start, regarding using the Zoom capabilities to show slides and stuff, I really don't know how to do any of that stuff, you know, so I won't be using the slides because I don't know how to use it, but they were created, so I just don't know how to use them. So anyway.
So no worries, sorry to interrupt. So if you want us to show them, let us know when you want us to show the slides.
It's okay.
No, it's okay. Fine, that's great because we want to see you rather than the slides. Yeah, thanks.
So you know, as I said, I really put my heart into coming to learn about what is this value of lightness, and it took me to some very interesting places of discovery, and I'll share with you as we go along on that. But when I, after churning quite a bit on what I felt that the um, definition of lightness is, I came out just where many others came out who you've heard from earlier, where I really recognize that lightness is an inner state of being. A lot of times we see people that are, very happy, joyful, every time you see them, and they're not necessarily it's not just, outside that I'm talking about today, of giving the appearance of lightness, but what does it mean from the inside out, as opposed to from the outside in? And of course, spiritually, when we're exploring things like that, we're always going to go to the inside, right? So what came out for me were that there were three qualities that, would let us know if we were really able to say that we're living with lightness. That first quality, being peace, that we are peaceful, not sometimes, but we have a consistency in our peacefulness. Secondly, loving, which we know, is something that allows us to remain so light as a feather, when we can actually be in that experience of love of the self, love of others, and of course, love of that source where there is supreme light. And then the third is that feeling of happiness, where no matter what you're doing, no matter what's going on, there's sort of like this quiet happiness, that sits in the heart. And it's sort of like being in that state of a child that you say, look what's going on here, but am I getting pulled down by it? Or is it something that's going to bring me up? No, it's natural that you stay up, right, in that feeling of happiness within. So I think when we have these qualities, we come to really understand, that it's a matter of our energy, as Brother was saying earlier, staying absolutely light and flowing at any given moment. And I think the the different things that we can experience, in our life, change as we come onto a spiritual pathway, where we decide to take up the practice of bringing these qualities and these values, into our daily life more and more. So perhaps, we have the patterns, as you say, the old things, the old patterns, that stuckness of something that's not feeling so light inside. But I do feel that when we want to activate this value in our life, that we really have to do a little bit of checking in order to become stress-free, and to be able to become stress-free. And these are the things we want to do, because what do we want, in life? We want to be stress-free. We want to have like happiness in our relationships. We don't want them to be relationships that are causing struggle and strife all the time, sometimes maybe, but we want them to be healthy relationships, and in order to have healthy relationships, we have to be in these in the state of being, conscious and making choices, that are going to allow us, to live from that space within, where we're striving to keep this lightness in our life. And so, when we do that, I think that what shows up is that there's a lightness, there's a happiness that brings zeal and enthusiasm at every moment. I mean, I know for myself here, even when there's challenges going on, when I can have that light ignited of lightness inside the self, I end up going for these long walks. I'm a walker, and I walk, 3 to 5 miles a day if possible. And when I'm walking, I mean, I'm just singing, I'm singing to the self. I'm connecting with that source of light, and I am just in the bliss, of the purity, the joy, the peace, the love, all of that. And it sounds a little corny, but truthfully, that feeling of being light as a feather, is just a matter of tickling the self with the memory, that we are light and that lightness is truly part of us. It's something we have, but what happens is that in order to remain full of that lightness, in order to remain sparkling in that lightness, in order to remain, just consciously aware that this is the state we want to be in, it takes a little practice. And I was thinking of a story. Actually, I'm thinking about two stories where I actually saw lightness in a soul, in a person, consistently, constantly, over my many, many years of meeting this person who some of you know, and her name is Dadi Prakashmani. And Dadi Prakashmani, for those who don't know, was the leader, the head administrator of the Brahma Kumaris for many, many years. And when I first came to a conversation that was being held in New York at the United Nations, actually, about these Vision of a Better World, a book that was being launched at the time at the United Nations. It was a celebration, and Dottie was there. And Dottie sat across from me for this dialogue, this conversation. And I was facing her, looking at her for almost 2.5 hours at that time. And what I couldn't get over is I couldn't get over the light that was coming from her eyes. I couldn't get over the smile when she smiled and spoke her words. It was as if my heart melted every word she said. And I said, I don't know who this is, but whoever she is, I really want to get to know her. And I was fortunate in that, so that was back in 1989, maybe, or 1990. And I actually did have the chance over many years to spend time with her. I've traveled maybe 40 times. I think it's been 40 trips to India, where I've had the pleasure of and the honor of being in her company. And the thing that I always used to say is, I used to say to her, I said, Dottie, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to learn to be like this in my life, because here was someone who was the leader of a mega organization, the largest woman-led spiritual organization. And it was as if she had absolutely nothing that she was carrying that was bringing any kind of weight, where she would not be able to express her lightness in life. So that was one experience of being with her. And then there was this second experience of being with her when, again, we were in New York for a conversation on choice. No, what was it called? It was called Consciousness and Choice. And she was presenting on a panel along with one of the thought leaders that I worked with for many years from MIT. His name was Peter Senge. And there were 4 or 5 other, there was a representative from the UN that was on that panel, and someone from South Africa who was on that panel, who I had met before, that was wonderful. But it was so interesting to hear Dottie talk about consciousness and choice as it relates to ethics and values in life. And I'd like to actually read for you a little paragraph of her words, because it's something that will, I think, touch your hearts in coming to understand how important it is to recognize that choice is an inner state of being, excuse me, that lightness is an inner state of being, and that the choice to be that is ours at every moment in time. So she says, the topic for discussion at this dialogue on conscience and choice, it's a very interesting topic. She said, it does happen in life's experiences that our desires dictate our choices in a direction which is normally different from the advice of our inner conscience. Interesting, huh? She said the difference in direction results in negativity or conflict between the advice of the conscience and the choices we make. The conscience of the human soul calls for the experience of peace, but when adverse situations arise and individuals are forced to make decisions, they invariably go against that inner voice and choose a direction that is peaceless and which results in anger, right? Or, some kind of violence. And she was talking, of course, now at the global level, but, I think this aspect of understanding that, and she actually said, just a few more words I want to read. She said, the fundamental principle that governs conscience and choice is a universal one, which states that there are always thoughts which will emerge in the mind first to give us the time to discern before we decide the action we take. So if in fact we were to apply this universal principle, that thought comes and we're given then time to discern and decide, am I making a choice in my thought it's going to lead me to live a life of lightness? Or is my thought taking me in the opposite direction? Simple, right? Sounds so simple. And Dottie mastered that. She absolutely mastered that. And one day I was sitting with Dottie in her cottage after writing her a letter, telling her that someday I was going to be in a place where I would live more closely with her, and where she advised me in that moment with a big smile. It was wonderful to have that desire, but she said, please, she said, no attachment, no attachment to me. Okay, Dottie, okay. But, one of the things that both she and the other elder from the Brahma Kumaris advised me to do was to whatever you do, keep your heart clean. Be able to live in this, keep your heart clean, and keep your heart clean, by checking internally, what you're holding in your heart, and find a way to face whatever it is that's there, because it could be something from long ago that came from arrows, from words from someone else that hit the heart so hard, so deeply, that over a lifetime, you can hold on to those. But when making the decision to live a life in lightness, those things will be shown to you and you can let them go. So you can either hold on to the pain, or decide, absolutely not, this is not for me, I'm going to let it go. So in those um, moments, of recognizing that there's a blockage, that's keeping me from my lightness. When we have the courage and we have the power, to use this power of discernment, magic happens. All of a sudden, we find ourselves moving into a space where we're living free, where we're living in that place of peace. We're, able to sparkle like Dottie sparkled, with that space of congruence, between what's going on in our heart, what's going on in our minds, and what goes on with the words we speak and the energy that we transmit in our life. So, I don't feel, in my years of practice, in my years of being involved in this practice, one of the things that I've come to recognize that Dottie was able to master herself. She was a self-master, and she was able to be in this space. But many of us have not been able to reach that level. So we do have moments when we're in an opposite flow in life, when it seems as if things become challenging, and we react differently, and we find ourselves not being able to stay in the lightness. So, what are other things that we can do at that moment in time? And I think it was important to note that someone else had said, having spiritual friendship with others at that time is really, a good thing to have, because we forget, that we could do something very simple in order to cure the switch, and switch the switch back to health, and that is what we need to do, is simply to remember, that we have a connection. We can make a connection with a source of pure light. And in that moment in time, we receive a flow of beautiful light, that sets us free again, so that we can continue our path, and enjoy the journey. So with that, after you've been listening to me for almost 15 minutes, I guess by now, why don't we just take a moment and just go into that space within, where we can relax, slowing down our minds, our thoughts, imagining a flow of light and lightness, just moving throughout our bodies, our hearts, our minds. And feeling a state of peacefulness, stillness inside. Becoming quiet, and simply remember that lightness flows from the tip of my head down through the body, into my toes, as my mind, my intellect opens to a connection with divine light. Letting all the other thoughts go, remaining in stillness, simply enjoying the light flowing through me. And as I come back into this room, I realize that when I'm in the light, the lightness of light, I simply have to be who I am. And to dance the dance of this lifelong journey while experiencing a quiet joy peace and happiness. Shanti. So thank you for allowing me to share that. And, to just in summary, I wanted to say that lightness, again, for me, is simply a state of being peaceful, loving, and happy. Simple, right? So simple. And knowing that the choice of living this value is there for each one of us. Knowing that this choice can be made at every moment in time, second by second, thought by thought. So, for each one of you, I wish I could hand you the feather, so that in any moment, if you find yourself getting heavy, you can just tickle yourself a little bit with the feather and bring you back to that which is innate, that which is your true self. So with that, I'll stop here. I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We wanted you to continue more, but that's fine. We'll take a few question and answers. Questions, you'll answer them. Yeah, not answers that way. Yeah. So it's a very practical question. One of the participants looks like a little bit stressed about the coming week from Monday onwards. And she's saying that please let me know the things that I can keep in my mind at my workplace, reminding me that I am a light.
Yes. Well, it's really a fun thing to do, to think about these things of what I can bring to my office. What can I do to keep myself light at work or at home even. So I it was actually interesting in the learning circle, the company that I started. My logo was a point of light with the rays coming out, the 8 powers coming out. And so I had that made up into little cards, and I had them posted everywhere. And before I did anything, I would connect with the light in order to be able to, run the business. I think that's why the business was truly so successful, because it was very successful. But, the other thing that you can do is to just remember, as you know you're facing stress coming toward you, that everything's going to be okay. This was a saying that both Dotties used to say all the time and remind us of. Never allow yourself to become stressed about everything. We've come to understand that this too shall pass, and that everything will be okay. And you think of, life from the beginning, from when you came into this lifetime, that how did you get to where you are today, that everything seems to be okay and moving along. It's okay, just like everything else has become okay, this too will be okay. And it was really interesting, just yesterday, if you can imagine, I was in this situation that I was anything but light in that moment. And I actually called Brother Manoj and I said to him, Brother Manoj, no, I think I wrote, I didn't write, I didn't call, I wrote a note and I said, I'm really, really sorry. I said, but, I am so far from being light today that I think you better get somebody else to do this program because I'm not there today. And what had happened was I had gone to a doctor, and I had been told that I was going to have eye injections for the rest of my life. And it took the sale. I mean, I had been having them in one eye, but now I was being told I had to have them in 2 eyes. And I was both eyes, and I was just in a place of saying, how do I accept this? How do I accept this? And I wasn't doing very well with it. But as what it did is, and it put me in a very deep place that took me into a very deeper place of darkness, which allowed me to see what I've been asking for some time, which I wanted to see what was blocking me from being able to be like a Dottie, to be constantly in consistency and lightness. So if it wasn't for Brother Manoj's, I don't know if it was desperation or if it was spiritual friendship, that he said to me, he said, no, you can't do that. And I said, well, I've never said no to service before. And of course, no, I can't do that. He said, there's no one, I don't have anyone else to ask, which I don't know if he was, but if that was real, I assume it was. But I said, well, okay, then let me come and let me be the best I can. And so I came with a commitment to bringing the lightness back so that I could speak from that space. And it was very, very interesting how it all happened. Right, Brother Manoj? Yes. So that's how I would suggest you do it. Everything's going to be okay, and you're going to get through it just fine. just like you've had the power to get through everything else in the past.
So thank you so much. And I think you're one of the best speakers for this topic because there are many professionals with us. And you yourself, I don't know whether you still work, do you? You still work?
No, no, actually, I don't work. I've never really considered my work anyway. Well, I'm still in touch with all of the people I've known throughout all of those years, and I advise people in their businesses and so forth. But working myself, not actually, not really. I've always found my work to be a way of learning. As I told you, I've always had this love of learning. So and what's really, really interesting, if you can imagine, so I work with all these scholars and these thought leaders and everything. And, I've had no book learning whatsoever in my life. I was an experiential learner that, somebody would ask me to put something in front of me and I would be able to do it. And I ended up learning about it and then I would do. But I've never had any book learning in my life. I barely made it out of high school.
Yeah, so the purpose of me asking you this was because the next question is pointing towards that, because many of the people whom we have as speakers on the show, they are into full-time meditation, teaching Raj Yoga to others as well. And they are sort of in one way what we call surrendered brothers and sisters. So I was having a talk with Sister Shruti a few hours ago about you actually, and she knows you quite well. So the question has come, I mean, coincidentally, it's a divine coincidence. I always say the question is, brother is asking that when there is overburden of work at workplace, and there are expectations of many souls from all over the place from us, how to feel light in such a situation. And the second question is, how can we make them feel happy?
Yeah. So when there's lots of situations, and believe me, I've lived through lots of moments that you just really don't know what is going to come next, how it's all going to work itself out. To really watch it as a play, as a drama, and that there's a drama going on and that I need to trust. For me, it was always a trust in God, that God would work it out. And I'm saying that not that God would do it, it's himself, but I used to believe that there was a motto. As a matter of fact, one time when I was in Madhaban, the question was in India, and at this meeting with the senior of the Brahma Kumaris, who asked what the motto of America was. And in answering that question, on all of the coins in America, the motto of America is trust in God. So I always felt, I always believed that that things were meant to happen just the way they were going to happen, and that when I could let go of expectation and just have trust in what I would call the drama of the corporation or the drama of life, that whatever was going to come was going to be for its next step in learning, that then the stress would dissipate. I would not feel stress with it. So you might want to and recognize that when you're not in the trauma of the drama, like everyone else in the organization is, that your thoughts will be clear enough to catch the touching of whatever it is that needs to happen next. And in order to make them happy, I would order ice cream for everyone, right? And invite them to have an afternoon of ice cream at the office. Shanti.
Okay, wonderful. Now, another question is a challenge for all of us who are very seniors, or maybe 10 years, or maybe just started their journey of meditation. It's a very common question which all of us have to face. So I'll read the entire, it's a mouthful of questions, so please bear with me. That which practice should I adopt to see myself and others as a soul, not the body? It's a very practical one. We always keep forgetting that. And the soul is saying that I keep on failing at this lesson number 1. And also when you all keep saying being light, so is it light of 5 words she's saying. Is it light of intelligence or awareness or energy or vibration or focus or concentration? So sorry, hope you are able to concentrate. It's too many
Yeah,
things. Yeah, okay. So
it's
you got
fine.
the gist of the question, yeah.
Got it. So how do I see myself as a soul? Why do I keep failing? In this lesson 1 that we were given of soul consciousness, and then how do you see lightness, awareness, intelligence, whatever, right? The whole list. So let's take it in segments. All right. So I think to see oneself as a soul means to really understand the lesson number 1 that was given, to recognize that I am a physical being and I am a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, I have a mind, I have an intellect, and I have these sanskars, these imprints, that these qualities that are innate, and I have the ones that are acquired. And this is the eternal part of me that lives forever. To recognize where this knowledge came from, who is giving me this awareness of who I am as a spiritual being, and who it is, and the fact that this is divine intervention at this time in my life that I have found the knowledge. So the combination of all of those things, allows me to begin the journey of this transformation from what we would call body consciousness to soul consciousness. And what that does, as many of you have experienced, is that changes my perception, from a short term view of this one lifetime to a mega perspective of the whole of this cycle of time that's explained, in the knowledge. So when I awaken to knowing that there is a part of me that is light, and that light resides within me, and that this is where I think from, this is where I discern and decide from, and this is where I am the creator of the life experiences that I'm living today. So with that, I begin a practice. And sometimes that practice, is really easy to remember who I am and to remember who that source that gave me the information is. And sometimes it's not so easy, and sometimes I forget. And when I forget, am I light enough to notice, oh my gosh, look what I just did. I just forgot, and I'm back in the old model of the duality of happiness, lightness, or sadness and sorrow. And so asking myself, where do I want to be? Do I want to be, in that place of the old pattern that I've lived for so many lifetimes? Or now that I've come to understand, the magic of the journey at this time, where I come to know myself, I come to know my own truth, my own eternity. Do I want to live from that paradigm? And the choice, just as we spoke about earlier, the choice is yours. Each one of us received the same knowledge, but you have to pay attention to the practice. It's sort of like learning to play the violin, learning to play the flute. It takes a lot of practice. And so once you commit yourself to the study about it, so that you gain a clear understanding of yourself, and then you begin to play the flute, of actually learning, studying, practicing, learning, eventually you reach it, that you'll be able to do it more and more, and never give up, never become discouraged, never ever allow yourself to become discouraged, but stay light in the dance of learning. And regarding the what do we mean by lightness, could you repeat that last part of the question for me again, please?
Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, because it was quite a bit. Yeah. So it is like, is it light of intelligence or awareness, or energy or vibration, or focus or concentration?
Yes, so I can say with from experience, it's a combination of all of that. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So I'll just take, in the interest of time, one more question. Like, it's again a new meditation. A person on the beginning of Raj Yoga meditation journey, they say that at Brahma Kumaris we are taught these many stages. So one of the stages is a stage of being bodiless, and one of the other stages being an angel. So angelic stage and bodiless stage. So can you please throw some light on these two stages, because I'm not able to understand these two stages. Are they the same or they are different? Angelic and bodiless.
Yes. Okay. So, when I first came to the Brahma Kumaris, when I first entered into this, and it was very interesting how I found out about it. I had been in search of spiritual understanding forever, and I used to get together with a group of professors. We used to meet every 6 months to talk about where we were on our spiritual paths. And all of a sudden, I left. We had a meeting, and the meeting was ending, and we left. We always left the meetings saying, "What's the one thing that you're trying to understand?" And I was trying to understand that, if I was spiritual, what did it mean to be spiritual? Right? What was I as a spiritual being? And secondly, if there was a God, why is there still all this suffering in the world? These were my two questions. And this one professor took my questions, and he went to on a trip to India. He came back and he said to me, he said, "Rita, I think I found the people who have the answers for you." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, why don't you bring them over?" He said, "Fine." So all of a sudden they came and they knocked on the door, and we sat down, and we had this conversation about, soul. What does it mean to be a soul? And if you know you're a soul, what is different about being a soul? And what I came to learn through numbers of conversations that followed that was, it was actually that we had three forms. We had the form of the physical body, we had the form of the soul, which we understood to be the point of living light, the consciousness, that brought it, that entered into us when we were born. It actually entered into the womb of the mother. The soul, entered into the physical costume, and then when they gave birth, the mother gives birth. We come out with this living light as the energy source that allows us to move and to think and to discern and decide in life. But then you come to also know that there's also a way that the soul that's currently sitting within the body, it can, you can come to know it as a traveler, one that travels through time from the physical world to the spiritual world of light, where we can enter another form. So we have the physical body, the point of light, and then the angelic form, which is a form of ourselves in light. The whole physical form turns to a light form, like an angel. I'm sure you've all seen angels. And that the soul in the angelic form can travel to what we call the angelic world, the subtle world. It's a world of light that's beyond the physical dimension of the universe that we live in, beyond the physical form of the globe. It goes beyond that. And so I had an experience actually very shortly after coming into the study, where I was in Madhavan, and I was sitting for early morning meditation. And while sitting in that form of consciousness, that I was connected with that source of light, I felt my soul and light body travel, beyond what I had known in any other moment in time while alive. And I found myself in this world of light, this subtle world. And it was truly above, and you could look down and you could see the physical world turning from that place that was above. And also, recognizing in that experience that I had that we were able to fly, and so flying back and sending light into the world where the world, so many in the world were suffering, stuck in that suffering, and being able to just be a light filled with love, and sending that love and light while in the angelic form. I don't know if this is making sense, if it's clear. I'm trying as hard as I can to articulate the experience, but that's one of that's the different stages, that we experience when we're on this spiritual journey. And there's so much more would be willing to share with you. You just need to contact me directly, and we could have an offline conversation. It's very challenging to get it all into a few minutes.
No problem. That's great. So thank you for sharing your experience about that thing, the wonderful experience you had at Madhuban. So thank you for that. And now I would request Sister Claudia. I'm sure you know her very well. She's the center coordinator locally at Vancouver, and she's doing double service as well. She's also doing the Portuguese translation today. So can I just request Sister Claudia to come out of the translation room and propose the vote of thanks to Sister Rita? Over to you. So I hope Sister Anu, you can.
Sister Rita.
Yeah.
Om Shanti, Claudia. Om Shanti.
So nice to be with you today. I was remembering that time when we were in Avyak Parivar. Yeah. And so it was nice to see you today and hear you up talking about how light we should, and is a choice. I was going to say in Portuguese, is a choice to be enlightened or not. So we have to see that choice in life. And it was very nice when you explained about that, Prakashmani, also your experience of being an angel. So it was nice to hear those points, and I think that's true. Like you said, it's a choice how I want to live my life. Do I want to live my life in a lightness or heavy, all the time moody and not feeling good? What is all about? Life has to be, for us to be, no matter what comes, we have to pass. And then it was very nice. Thank you very much for giving all your experience and coming to us today. Like you said, you almost did not come, but I was actually looking forward to see you today. So it was very good. Thank you very much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. And, I bequeath this feather to everyone online. You take it and don't forget, here's for you, each one of you. Don't forget, just tickle yourself when it gets a little heavy, and all will be well.
I think I'm going to get one, I think, like that for me. Thank you.
You notice it has a golden tip. It's top of it is gold, because so you can see it a little bit, maybe, that it's gold. Yes, it's not white at the top, it's gold. So taking us to a golden, beautiful, light age. Om Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. And you were destined to be here, so there was no point that I could find a replacement for you. Okay, anyway, so let me do the announcements quickly, and then all of you can be ready for your photograph, because that's what we always do with our guest speaker. And Sister Anu, be ready with that. So I'll just do the announcements. So moving on to the next value in this month, very closely related to lightness, is sweetness. And we have two sweet souls with us. very senior Raj Yogis. We have had them on the show as well in the past. It's Sister Dipti from South Africa and Brother Ashish from UK. Mahesh, if you can just mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. So this is the next episode 74, one episode short of the 75th Platinum Jubilee, which will be a big blast. I'm sure you'll know in the calendar who will be there for that episode. And sweetness we call in Hindi Madhurta. So that's our next episode. And as I said, this month of September is the month of Boston. So we have another we have another speaker, Brother Dave from Boston. I mean, Sister Rita, and he work very closely in liaison, say, coordinating the activities. They're a beautiful place to sort of do service as well, and has a lot of British influence because it is the east coast of that area, Massachusetts. A lot of British influence and a lot of good service happening. So Brother Dave will be covering, as we did today, the workshop on sweetness next time. And this is a beautiful calendar. So you can see the platinum episode also mentioned here. I'll throw the blast later when we announce it next time. And this is our emails and our websites. You can please feel free to share your comments and feedbacks. And all these are recorded on the YouTube. And the links are omshanti.tk/workshops. And for the Values for Life series episodes, they are the ones mentioned as playlist and /English or whatever language. You can just type down that language and listen to them. So I'll just stop sharing the screen now. And if we can all open our cameras, and over to Sister Anu for the photograph. Yes, people are, okay, thanks.
Sure. So everyone, please open your video. It takes few seconds. Okay, Vijay bhai, your video is not on, so any complaints later. Okay, ready? This is the moment. Keep it in our memory, the beautiful sharing by Sister Rita and we all together. So yeah, I got. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So since we had a beautiful meditation experience, so maybe we should just do a little bit of Drishti Yoga. What do you suggest? Or you want to do a meditation again also, it's fine. Closing meditation, Sister Rita. So you want to do some closing meditation as well?
Whatever you'd like, you just tell you guide me.
So I think it's good to have a closing meditation as well. Yeah, we have 5 minutes. Yeah.
5 minutes, good. Okay. So stepping back into that sacred space within. Where I, the soul, the living light of peace, of love and happiness exists. And within a second, I travel as the point of light to the land of peace, connecting to the one who is ever peaceful, filled with love and light. and I remember. In this moment in time, who I truly am. My mind becomes still. So quiet and peaceful. As I experience the light of love from the Supreme Soul, the source of divine light. I become full of lightness. And I begin to sparkle, to shine, sending light and love to all the people of the world. I become an instrument of love and lightness. And the only thing I need to do is to remember who I am. I am a being of light. Filled with the love and the lightness of the Supreme Soul. And as I feel that in life, my heart begins to dance. And I become light as a feather. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much once again for joining, taking out time. Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Bye.